instead of looking at external aspects of culture that could have influenced this story, that is the cultural context of Sinead de Valera and the other storytellers, of Harry Rucky, and then of writing Ashypelt, we could instead look at the intangible aspects of culture in this story and use those to make a cultural or close reading. Specifically, we can look at the idea of the label disability and how that's used in the life of this heroine. So, Ashypelt is described as having a condition known as hypertrichosis, which is being born with hair all over your face or all over part or all of your body. This chronic illness, this genetic disorder, is labeled a disability and treated as a disability. Ashypelt is not treated as being able-bodied. And this discrimination is something that's called ableism. If you've never heard of ableism, I'm sure you've seen it, perhaps you don't know it under that label. Click on this link. It's a really good brief description of what ableism is, and then examples of it around us. So, Ashypelt, as a hero, a female hero, labeled disabled, is very unique in the Western fairy tale canon. You don't see a lot of female heroes who also have that label. And that changes what is and is not allowed in her heroic journey, I think. Or that's a way that we could analyze it. So if you look at the link above, I think two pertinent things that stood out that we could analyze with Ashypelt's heroic journey are, first, the assumption that people with disabilities need to be fixed. That assumption is part of ableism. Does Ashypelt at any point in the story imply that she wants or believes that she needs to be fixed? Quite the opposite. Ashypelt is deeply confident in her own abilities. No matter how many times her unworthy, awful sisters oppose her, she keeps going on. She is confident in herself. She knows that they need her. She doesn't need them, but they need her. And so she's going to go and be the hero and the fairy godmother and save these unworthy sisters and set up their lives. She knows that this kingdom needs her. This kingdom cannot save itself. She can, and she does. And at the end, when the prince doesn't want her, when he rejects her because of her medical condition, she does not express a need or a desire to be fixed. The queen sort of steps in and does it for her, and she is forced to be fixed before the prince will accept her and before she's worthy of him, despite being more heroic than anyone in the story, than anyone in the nation. She is the greatest, but still not great enough until she's fixed. That is an ableism. Does that ableism undercut the sort of exposure of, or the critique of ableism throughout the story? Because the other characters who are expressing or embodying this ableism, particularly the sisters, mocking her, even beginning with not an Ashypelt, but in the Harry Rucky versions, Harry Rucky is a mocking name. So she's mocked from the time she is born by her family, by the community. They explicitly don't want her around them. They feel she'll ruin her chances because of her appearance. She proves them wrong again and again, and in fact, instead of being someone who hinders their rise, she is the one who enables their rise. But does that final fixing undermine the narrative that resists ableism? Answering that question, parsing that out, which I think could be different for any individual reader, is where you're getting into a close reading of the structure of the hero's journey through a critical lens like this. And if ableism is something you think you want to continue exploring, perhaps you see it in the stories that you're reading, I highly suggest listening to this TED Talk by Arab-American comedian Masoon Saeed. She's just talking about her life, but she's talking about her life with cerebral palsy. And as she's talking about it, she concludes with the way she advocates for people who have been given the label of disabled, and how she resists and she's fighting ableism in our society as a comedian and as a woman with cerebral palsy. So here's the YouTube, here's the link, and here's the description of it from YouTube. Now, keep this in mind as you are going to your second discussion question, which is where you're going to be talking about how you would film Ashypelt. Would it be live action or animated? What would Ashypelt look like? Her condition, her chronic illness, is focused on her physical appearance in the fairy tale version of the story. How would you depict that or illustrate that in your film? Would you name it? Would you allow it to go unnamed so it's sort of a stand-in for any kind of disability label? What actors would you use? What soundtrack? What setting? Make these kinds of decisions. This is not long. You're not writing the entire script. You're just describing decisions you would make if you had unlimited budget and could make this film any way you wanted. And then I want you to think about, how are you dealing with questions of ableism or of a post-colonial rule, or how does your retelling express those messages that are inherent in the story, not just the sort of go through the plot line? I love this example. You all come up with amazing stuff. Make your reading, look at One Peer's post and respond to it. Look forward to what you write.